Welcome fellow learners. In the last two videos, we have seen how we can implement SQL Database Chain using Langchain and the LLMs. We have also seen how we can utilize custom prompts to get better results from these SQL Database Chains. So we have seen it involves multiple steps to get the output from these chains. We have seen that if we pass the natural queries to it, as we have seen in the last video, like if we pass this natural language query to it, it will first create a SQL query from it. Like this will create this SQL query, then pass this SQL query to database and fetch the results from it. Once it gets the result from database, it will use that database result, SQL query, and the input natural language query from the user and pass these input to the LLM and get the summarized results from it. So in this video, we will go through each of these steps individually. So like first we will go how we can create a SQL query from this natural language question. Second, we will fetch the results from the SQL query and finally extract the result from the LLM using these input query, SQL query and the SQL result from the database. So let's get started. In the first component of SQL Database Chain, it converts natural language question from the user into the SQL query. For that part, it uses Create SQL Query Chain, which is basically available in the Langchain library. We will import this one and then pass the language model and the database to it. We are using GPT 3.5 turbo model over here, and in the database we are using same Titanic dataset that we were using in the last few videos. We can print the table info or you can say the schema of the table using this db.tableInfo. We can see it has given us the table schema and few rows from it, so that we can see how does this data look like, and then it will pass this same db.tableInfo to LLM. Now we can create this chain. Once our chain is created, we can also see what other things it contains. We can see it uses the input, which will be the user's query, table info, which will be the table schema and few rows from it. Apart from that, it also uses a prompt, which tells it like it is a SQLite expert and it needs to create a syntactically correct SQLite query. So this will be the prompt. Now we can invoke this SQL chain by passing the query to it. So it will use the LLM, and we can see it has generated this query over here. Select count passenger ID as total passenger from passenger data. Now our first step is done. Second step is to fetch the SQL results from this SQL query using the database that we were using. For that part, we are not going to use any language model. We are going to use Query SQL Database tool from this Langchain community. We will import this and then pass the database to it. So it will create a DB execution, which will basically takes input SQL query and fetch the results from the database. So if you see in the next line, I have created a execution chain, which is basically combination of both SQL chain and a DB execution that we are using. So this SQL chain is the same that we were using previously, this Create SQL Query Chain. What will happen here, whenever user asks a question, it will first run through this SQL chain. It will convert the natural language query into SQL query and then pass that query into this DB execution. So we will run this cell and then finally invoke this execution chain. So we will see the final output over here. So like first it will convert it into SQL query and then pass it to the execution of this database. So we can see it has fetched like 891 total rows over here. Now the second step is done. So third and final step is to summarize the results. For this part, we are first going to import few libraries. We will use these libraries in a short while. I will be explaining these libraries when we are going to use these. So first I will create a template. So this template takes three inputs. So first one is user's input question, which will be in natural language format. Second one is the SQL query that we have generated in the previous step from the user's question. Third one is the SQL result that we have fetched from the database. We will run this cell And in the following cell, you are seeing two things. One is the output and another one is chain. So this output is basically a runnable sequence. So this is a sequence where the first one is the prompt. It will get the prompt from this template. Second one, it will pass this prompt to this LLM, fetch the results, and then pass that LLM output to this str output parser to parse AI output into the string format. And then you are seeing this chain. So this is our complete chain. So it basically first step is using this same SQL chain, which is create SQL query chain, converts input query into the SQL query format. Second one is it will run this DB execution to fetch the results from the database. It is using item getter to extract this query key from this dictionary, run this DB execution, fetch the results, and then pass all the three input, result, query, and the user's question to this template, and then pass that to our LLM over here, and then finally get the string formatted output from this str output parser. So don't worry, I will explain all these steps one by one. So let's first run this one. So we are seeing this, we are using a runnable pass-through over here. So what is runnable pass-through is basically, runnable pass-through is just identity function. It basically helps in using the dictionary at runtime. Like it can be used to add few keys at runtime in the dictionary if we are passing dictionary as an input to it. If you see, our input is in dictionary format, and the prompt which takes three inputs: question, query, and result. So first input is question, which we are going to pass as an user's query. Second one is SQL query, which we will assign at the runtime. And the third one is the result, which we will also assign at the runtime. For that part, this runnable pass-through assign function is really helpful. So we will run this. Let's say create a variable over here, ch, for this runnable pass-through. Now we can invoke this one, ch.invoke, and we can pass the same input to this over here. Once we run this, you will see along with this question, there is another key in this dictionary, which will be the query. So we are going to run this, and you can see like it has generated the SQL query, and also the query key, it has added the query key to it. So this is the first step. Second step is to run this through a database and fetch the results and assign it to the result query. So we will use this step in a separate cell. Again, we can create another function like ch2 over here. So if you see, it will first use this SQL chain, convert it into SQL query, and then use the item getter to fetch the query, and then pass that query to DB execution to fetch the results from the database. So we will run this cell. Now we have this ch2. We can invoke this chain using same invoke function, and then pass the same input that we have used it already, this one. So once we pass this input to it, it will first run this SQL chain, get the SQL query from it, and assign it to the query key in the dictionary. Then in the subsequent sequence, it will fetch the query key from the dictionary using item getter, and then pass that SQL query to this DB execution. It will fetch the results from the database and append into the dictionary using the key result. So we will run this over here, and we will see instead of two keys that was in the dictionary, it has now three keys over here. Now we have all the data with us, question, query, and result. We can use our template that we have seen over here, and we will pass this all the three input to this template. So when we are going to use this final chain, it will get all the results, all three results, and then use this output runnable sequence finally. So it will take the prompt, pass it to LLM, and then finally pass the LLM output to str output parser for final results. So for that part, we will run this final chain over here. So you can see it will first create the SQL query, then pass it to the database and fetch the results from the database, and finally use all the extracted results and the input user query, and then pass that to our runnable sequence of this output, and finally fetch the results from the chain. So it will get us the summarized results from it. So this is the final output that we are getting from this complete SQL database chain that we are seeing over here. But in this video, we have seen all the steps, all the components that it was using. Hope this might helps you to understand all the components that are being used in the SQL database chain. Goodbye until the next time.